Welcome out to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. Another wonderful Sunday we got going out here. Weather's nice and cloudy, and nice in here, really nice in here. So we're going to start it off with the song "This Is the Day," and please rise and join in the spirit. I'm there, I believe. Oh, let me get a pick.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
All right. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister here, and I want to welcome you on this nice, cool Sunday morning. So welcome, welcome. So we got a lot of announcements to cover today. So the first one, Susan, since you're standing up, you might as well just keep walking up here. So it's Reverend Susan's 60th birthday. So we're going to quickly sing a happy birthday to her. Come on. You look fine. You think she's in a beauty pageant or something. Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Susan. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Oh, look how surprised she is. Look how surprised she is.
Oh, I am. I didn't know any of this. I knew about this at about 6:30 this morning.
Oh.
This part.
Yes, happy birthday.
I also want to add that I got married on my 25th, and my husband of 35 years is about to stand up in the back.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I did.
Only so she wouldn't forget.
He forgot the first.
Yes, I'm going to remember that. So anyway, all right. So quick announcements. First is next week we have the Singing Bowls. So if you have not experienced the Singing Bowls, we have a visitor from New Vision Church that's coming over, a practitioner, and she's going to have the crystal bowls. We have one here. She may even use that one, but she'll bring up a bunch of them. So I'm encouraging you to come in comfortable clothes next week. Even if you want, you could bring something to lay. We'll make some space if you want to lay on the ground. I've laid on the ground and experienced it. You're just going to relax into it, and it's going to be a beautiful experience. So you can sit in a chair, but just dress comfortable. And if you're online, you have to come in. We're not going to video record it. So anyways, it's going to be next weekend. It's going to be right after service. So please join us for that. It's going to be a fantastic experience, especially if you haven't experienced it before. Also want to remind you that Reverend Karen's Introduction to Science of Mind class is going to be September the 6th, and it starts at 1:30. And that's just any question that you may have about Science of Mind. You can it'll be in her office, and you just come in. It'll be a very friendly, social experience of just open questions and answers for you. And then on September the 13th, she is going to be doing the foundations class, and that foundations class is, again, it's from 1:30 to 3:30. And if you have not taken the foundations class before, it is an incredible experience. It will change your life. And if you have taken it, I always encourage people to take it again, because you're in a different state of consciousness right now, and Reverend Karen is in a very different state of consciousness right now. And anyway, so it'll be a whole new experience for you. So again, please mark your calendars for all of these wonderful things that we have going on. So this is where we come together every Sunday, not only to love and support each other, but to remember our truth, that we're whole, perfect, and complete just the way that we are. So now that I've got all the announcements out of the way, let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the Science of Mind principles, and so it is. So just sit back, relax, get comfortable in your seats, open up your hearts, open up your minds, and listen to Bradford's beautiful music, and prepare yourself for Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So take a deep breath as we go within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
And in this quiet place, one essence, one love, one infinite intelligence, wisdom, beauty, joy, all that there is, all that there ever has been, and all that there ever will be. And I am a part of this essence that I choose to call God. And as I am a part of this essence, each of us are a part of this essence, a part of the whole. And as we come together this Sunday in this sacred space, I just want to say a blessing for the Bradfords and their awesome music that always touches us, that always leaves us more together as a community, more in touch. And I say a word of blessing for Reverend Karen and the message that God speaks through her today and the lessons that she will teach that we can take with us as we go throughout our week. And I just give thanks for this very, very sacred time. And I just release this in the law, knowing it is already done, already perfect. And together we say, and so it is. Got to fix my glasses. There we go. Okay, so today I'm reading Your Invisible Power by Ernest Holmes. It's a really great book, if anybody. It's not very long either, but it's got a lot of really interesting stuff in it. You are the execution of my will, as I am the one within you, which conceives the purpose of that will. I am the love, you are the beloved. I am the abstract, you are the concrete. I am the impersonal, you are the personal. There could be no you without me. You as an individual are but one unique manifestation of my being, because my being is in all people, which may recognize the other. I am that which they recognize, and I am the intelligence which responds in each and through all. This is a mystery of life, the enigma of the universe. How is it that I can remain universal and still be individual? It is an understanding of this which has come to the great, which has led them back to the unity of the whole, which has given them the power they possess. It is the awakening of this lesser self to this greater self, which is a new birth. It is a surrender of the limited to the limitless, from the finite to the infinite, and of restriction and bondage to freedom. I, the universal self, multiply my self-expression countlessly through my individual selves. The soul of you and of all, the imperishable part of all, is a different manifestation, a unique expression of myself. The understanding of this is the key to the mystery of life, which unlocks the hidden treasures of my being. This consciousness of oneness, this knowledge that the universal I am is also the individual I. This recognition, the highest God and the innermost God is one God. To know this is to know the truth, which makes you free. That's a whole lot to think about. And so it is.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved and set me free. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
Just like the blind man, I wandered along, worries and fears I claimed for my own. Then like the blind man, that God gave back his sight.
Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was beautiful.
What are you doing? Next week you can talk. No, we have a special announcement.
Yeah, I was afraid there. Did I do something wrong? I'm confused now.
I can instill fear when I need to.
All right. So what we're doing right now is so we have one of our community members that is actually from Hawaii. And so some of us have asked, what can we do to support the families? And so we have a family member, a spiritual family member that their family is affected in their community, and he actually just came back from Hawaii. And so we are wanting to support him and his family, and so he's going to talk. We want to invite him up. So Bruce, if you could come on up. So we've asked him to share a little bit about his experience over there and what's going on, and then we'll provide some information about how we can support him and his family. There's a GoFundMe page, or you can actually contribute here, and we'll get the money to him. But we'll talk more about that. I want Bruce to share a little bit about him, his family, and what's going on. So
And
thanks, Bruce.
Before you start, Bruce, I just wanted to say that Bruce has been a member of this community for not as long as a lot of people, but my first real connection with Bruce was the day we were moving all the furniture back in the sanctuary after we laid the new carpeting. It's like we asked, please show up, we need help. And he actually gave up dancing that morning to come and help us. And I don't even think he knew us that well yet. I don't think he, yeah. So I appreciate that. And now it is really an honor for us to, we would love to hear some of the story that you might inform us.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate and feel gratitude for this opportunity. Thank you, Reverend Karen, and the Board of Directors for this opportunity. I lived in Hawaii for many, many years, and I raised my family there, and I have many, many friends and family still there. And of that, I left there just 3 days prior to the fire. And I was so appreciative of the fact that I got to be there prior, and I can still have photos, still have really direct memories of what it was like to be there. And now it's somewhat lost, but it's forever in our hearts. So my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, where I stayed, their house was completely destroyed. My nephew's house was destroyed. My stepson's house was destroyed. And he is the captain of the Napili Fire Station, which is one of only 2 fire stations on the west side, completely overwhelmed by the immensity of the disaster. Thousands of homes were lost. The overwhelming loss of all that was there is just so terrific. I don't know. But on a better note, all of my family and friends and most of their pets survived, so that is wonderful. They're all safe. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that God has supplied them with everything that they need to get through this: shelter, food, clothing, all that. And in addition to that, I'm so appreciative that there's been heartfelt prayer for my community and my family, and I thank Reverend Liz for that. People say, oh, you're in our prayers and thoughts in times of this disaster. But according to our philosophy, there is nothing more powerful than positive thought, affirmations, and affirmative prayer. God, through God, all things are possible and, in fact, do work out in our lives. And so I'm, first of all, very grateful for knowing that and having that experience that. But, yeah. So beyond that, there are ways in which we can help. And I have a GoFund. My son has a GoFund page where you can make direct impact on the lives of those folks. There's a lot of relief efforts that are going to happen, maybe going to happen, but Brian's been able to dedicate and contribute building materials to the folks there that their homes were damaged by the wind or the fire, and so to keep them weatherproof. He's been able to help 15 families with that effort. And he's also contributed to the building of pavilions at the emergency distribution centers. There's 3 of them on the west side of Maui, and he's able so that the supplies can be weatherproof and protected during this time. And beyond that, he's going to be able to participate in supplying all of the personal protective equipment that is going to be needed for all the cleanup of all that toxic materials. That's going to be who knows how long and how big that project is, but he's able to make contributions to that. So one final thing that's going to happen is that my brother-in-law, who is an artist, one of the arms of his ministry as being an artist is going into the elementary schools and providing art education. And so he's taking that ministry into these places where these young people are being housed temporarily, hotels and shelters, and they're going to be doing that same ministry of helping these children through their art to just express what's happening in their lives. And so with that, I'm so appreciative of whatever support you folk can do. And I'm not a singer, but I'm going to just sing a Hawaiian song that the tune may be familiar. I'm not a singer, but I'm going to just give it a shot. Ho'onani kamakua mau, ke ki kahuane no, ke akua mau ho mai kaipu, ko ke a'au, ko ke la'au, amene.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Bruce. Again, we're gonna provide information about the GoFundMe page, but as well as if you want to donate here directly to the community, and then the money will be in. We'll put it into the GoFundMe page either way. So whatever makes it easy. So we'll have the information on the newsletter. And we'll also provide some information out. We'll also probably have it on the overhead projector, which she already has. Kendra's just incredible. She already has it out there.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so thank you, Bruce, and our prayers are with you and your family. So, all right.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Wow. I love it when great things come together and you don't plan. So thank you for saying yes, Bruce. It's nothing like hearing it directly from the person And kudos to your son, Brian, for his efforts in making this easy for us. I texted Bruce this morning and said, because some of you came up to me in the social hall last Sunday and said, how can we help? What can we do? Is there a special way we can donate? And one of the things that Reverend Clyde and I always talk about is it's something we can do from afar, but it's hard to know where your money's going. So when Bruce said that there's a fund that's already set up, it was just perfect. And then when he said yes to speaking to you personally, my heart just opened wide. Thank you for that. The title of my message, oh my God, Bradfords, that was really gorgeous. I really wondered if you would play with that idea of Amazing Grace, because the title of the message this morning is I Once Was Blind, and we're going to talk about several things and that pertain to that. But what we're really looking at, and I think it feels so fitting, it's so fitting that we would have this opportunity to support someone in our community and this family that we really don't even know in a very personal way. And it shows us that sometimes the healing and the inspiration we receive in life is the very lifting of the Spirit that lifts us, and we can participate in that healing, and that helps heal our aching hearts too. So we're growing in consciousness, and that's the whole point of the message this morning, is that, we're sort of blind to things until we have these opportunities to rethink everything and reprioritize what matters again in our life. So that's what we're doing today. We're talking about gaining a light of understanding of spiritual matters in such a way that we receive the light, the vision, the understanding, and we see from a brand new perspective of how we fit in with the rest of life. Let me read to you the quotation that got me a little bit excited when I was considering writing this message. Dr. Ernest Holmes, in his book, Can We Talk to God? Yes. Yeah, that's what prayer's for. He wrote these words. Experience which proves the integrity of the soul will do more good than all the teachings of theology. For thus we arrive at a place of saying, this I know, whereas I was blind, now I see. It's a really valid point. You can study all of the many theologies from all the cultures and spiritual traditions. But when we dedicate our lives and study all our lives to have a better understanding of the nature of God, that's all great. But it's not the head knowledge that does the work, that helps us, allows us to feel and step into what we call the realization, the embodiment of the truth. So I love, there's a quote from the Course in Miracles I've been thinking about all morning that says, you can't be taught what truth is, because we all have a different idea of what truth is. Even spiritual truths. But there are threads that are universally acknowledged in all faiths and spiritual traditions. So the Course, the line that I love from the Course says, the truth will only dawn upon you of itself. We can't make it happen. Right? We get it in bits and pieces, and we have opportunities in our life to have the blindness lifted and to feel closer to Spirit and have communion with life and with God. So we need our own personal experiences, and that's a mix of what we might label good and bad, or wrong and right, or difficult and easy. But all of it, when we look at it in that place of recognizing there's a power and a presence that's greater than we are, and we can tap into it, and we can learn about it, and we can allow God's love and God's peace to express through us and as us. Now we're empowered. We're divinely aligned to that powerful essence of what God is. So the blindness, the removing of the blindness is about waking up to that ongoing, miraculous nature of life. You just wait and see what happens in Maui. In a few years, it'll be breathtaking. How nature herself will do some work. So I like that line when Holmes said that experience proves the integrity of the soul. The integrity of the soul. Ooh, that's just good. I love how that feels. And it reminded me that it's a lovely connection to something bigger, and that is that this man, Dr. Ernest Holmes, is the guy who is the founder of this teaching, and he made it his life's dedication to look for those threads of golden truth that exist in all faiths, in all spiritual, religious traditions. And Dr. Ernest Holmes was a man of great integrity. There's a lovely book that's out of print, but it's the autobiography of his life, and he had a part of writing that book, producing it. He made a lot of recordings, and his brother Fenwick agreed to help him get this book published, and so it wasn't published until after he passed. I think he passed in 1960, and I think the book was published about 4 years later. So what's really fun is that there are a lot of stories from their childhood, but Dr. Ernest Holmes had a great say in what he felt was important, what elements of his life were important and should be shared. So here's a story about a time when he was a youngster. They don't tell us how old he was, but he was finishing the morning Sunday school session. And for whatever reason, all the other kids had run along, and he was helping the teacher sort of put the stuff together. And I have a vision in my mind of a 10-year-old boy erasing the chalkboard. They probably did that in the early 1900s, right? Did they have chalkboards? You probably know, didn't have whiteboards. I'm pretty sure they didn't have whiteboards. Or technology. But I see him staying there helping, and so they're kind of just having a casual conversation, and the teacher says to him, the Sunday school teacher, who, by the way, he defined as a pious older woman with rather archaic theologies. I don't think he liked her very much. But she's chatting with him, and she says, "What are you going to do today when you get home?" And he says, "Oh, it's May Day, and every year on May Day, me and all my brothers," remember he was the youngest of 9 sons, "me and all of my brothers go down to the lower pasture," because they had a farm, "and we collect wildflowers." And then they would peel the bark off the birch trees and make these little cones, and they would put bouquets of flowers, and the older brothers would hang them on the front doors of their best girls, and the younger brothers would make them for their mother because they loved their mother very much. So it was all about collecting flowers and stuff. And the Sunday school teacher gets very upset and says, "Oh, please don't do that. You need to be resting on the Sabbath. That is not a proper thing to be doing on the Sabbath." And he describes her as being quite worried about the whole process, and so he wasn't sure how to handle it. He didn't want to cause her discomfort, and she kept saying, "Promise me." And so he did. He said, "Okay, I won't, I promise." Now he's got to work his way home, and so he's heading home, and he's thinking about it, and he's a bright little boy, and he questions a lot. He was known for his questions. And he starts reasoning out, we might call it rationalizing today. And he starts thinking about why maybe it's still okay for him to go picking flowers with his brothers in the lower meadow or pasture. And I forgot the key point. As she's scolding him, saying, "No, the Sabbath is a day of rest," she says to him, and this is a direct quote, "Even the ass knows enough to lie down on Sundays." Now, I'm pretty sure she meant like a donkey, not a judgment of another human. But so now she's planted this seed in this smart little boy, and he can't quit thinking about it, and he's reasoning it out in his mind, and he realizes that there's a story in the Bible because they knew the Bible. They read the Bible as a family every day. And he remembered this story about the time Jesus got the ass, the donkey, but in the Bible it's called an ass, and they pulled Jesus saved the ass. He pulled him out of a ditch on the Sabbath, and apparently all the religious leaders were quite unhappy about the fact that he had done that. But Jesus stood up for himself and said, no, it was the right thing to do. I saved this animal. This is life. Everybody deserves life. So with that thought, he then went and created the next thought, because this is how our mind works. We're making it up all the time. His next thought was, we have a pretty big piece of property here, and down there in that lower pasture, there is a big ditch. I think it would be important for me to go out and check just to make sure no animals have fallen in that ditch and need me to save them. So he went out and he picked the flowers, and as you might imagine, he later regretted it. He felt bad. But he did not feel bad because he broke his promise. He felt bad because he had made a promise that compromised his own integrity, and he was aware of that. And he made an oath to himself. He made a decision that he would not make promises. And he states, as an adult, he stated that he very seldom made a promise to another person because he was not willing to jeopardize his own personal integrity. So there's something important in that story that takes me to that place of recognizing how important it is to know yourself and to honor that. And yes, we do sometimes make and have to make, we're called to make compromises in some of our decisions, especially in relationship, because we all have values. All of us have core values, and what we know is that all conflict comes when our core values clash into each other. So a value isn't right or wrong, and we actually can reprioritize our values at different times in our life. I imagine the illustration of Bruce's family is a perfect example. What was important to them a month ago is probably not nearly as important as what's in front of them right now. So that might be an extreme example, but we're doing that all the time. We're always called to reprioritize the way we make decisions and move on. So I think this is the story itself is a really good example of how at the level of the soul has an integrity, and when we disturb the integrity of the soul, we are compromised. We are put in a position where we are compromised. So we want to look at our values. We want to align ourselves. The whole 6-week class, this thing called You that we just completed, was all about looking every week. It was a revisit of what's important. Do you know what your values are? Because when you align to your values and you live them, we're happier, and the circumstances in our lives will proceed with a lighter sense of ease, even when you're moving through something quite difficult. We want to be able to do that. And to align to your integrity, I think it's important for us to look at what the word integrity itself is defined as steadfast adherence to an ethical code. But it's your ethical code, which means we cannot impose it upon all the people in our lives, even though we'd sometimes like to. We think our lives would be easier if we could do that, but that's not necessarily true. So at the root of that word, we find that it's the same root as, how do you say it, integer in algebra? The integer, you know what that is? It's a whole number. Wasn't that nice? I didn't embarrass anybody for not knowing algebra still. All the smart people knew it, though. All the people that love math probably remember that. So the root of the word has to do with wholeness. It has to do with completeness. Integrity has to do with unity. And I love that because our entire teaching is based on the understanding of wholeness. And then our spiritual practices reinforce ways in which we can stay in that sense of wholeness, or return to that sense of wholeness, or stay in a place of creating an openness where the truth may dawn upon us of itself. Stephen Covey wrote about integrity and said, integrity includes, but it goes beyond honesty. So it's not just about truth-telling and being an honest, upright person. It's more than that. He says, it is conforming reality to your words and to your actions. This requires an integrated character. I like that. A character of oneness. Oneness primarily with yourself, but never forget that the more we look at embodying a sense of oneness with our own self, the easier it is to sense our oneness with the collective. We can see the whole. The wholeness, the WHOLE. We can see the integrity of the web of life in which we are all connected to each other. So I noticed there were two things in that quote that grabbed me. And the first one is that part about conforming reality to our words. So I just want to emphasize that that's everything we've been talking about, really aligning your actions, your choices to your core values, the things that are most true to you. It's about prioritizing your choices to match your values. If the choices you make are not aligned to your values, you're going to feel very uncomfortable, and you may not even know why. And typically we will blame it on somebody else. So I have this idea, the way that I have worded it and see it, and I like this wording. It's the way that we sculpt our own lives to match what's most important to us. And then we have to be willing to resculpt as we get more information and our values deepen or shift or change a little bit. But here's what I want to say, and I think that this is valuable to hear. Living authentically does not give us permission to hurt other people. I like reality TV sometimes. Don't hate me. But, you all know I love the show Survivor, And what I notice, and the reason I love it is because when you watch how people act under pressure, when they're not in their little safe environment and they're pulled away from their loved ones, and worse yet, they're hangry because they haven't eaten in a long time. And there's this $1 million carrot, who's going to win it? What would you do? And so it's easy to watch those shows and feel judgmental, but I don't watch those shows like that. I watch those shows and go, what would I do? Would I be a nice person or not? I can't imagine under all those circumstances that I would be very fun to be around. Probably a good thing they didn't pick me, right? For those of you who got to see my video, my audition tape. So what I notice when I'm watching that kind of stuff is that people will say, well, I'm just because the cameras are running, I am not going to put on a facade. I'm going to be real, and I'm going to just be who I am. I'm going to be authentic because it's important to me to be authentic. Well, it should be, but not if you're hurting other people. Then you do not have permission. It's not an invitation to be bold in your just being authentic. And I think if we got that one little point, Ooh, that could help couples. I'm having a feeling maybe it could even be couple worthy there. Maybe he says laughing. And Kathy has said nothing. Sorry, but it's fun. You sit in the front, I can pick on you a little bit. So that idea where Covey said it requires integrated character, which always gets a little woo from my heart when I say it. He's saying, know yourself. It's important. Come on, this is spiritual stuff. Know thyself. We say that often here. So to be integral, to be in integrity to yourself is essential for your completeness. But then it leads me to the second thing he said that I find very relevant, and that is that to have integrated character is that place where you have a sense of oneness with yourself, but also then with life itself. That's what leads to an integrated life. But you got to start working on yourself first. We begin to take responsibility for what's ours. So I thought, when I wrote that, I thought, oh, it's like those days where I'm feeling kind of like all over the place, and I catch it, and I pull I go back to center. That I might say to myself, Karen, pull yourself together, and that then causes me to stop and take a breath and allow that integration to happen, because it's not really something I have to do. I have to quit doing all the crazy, busy thinking, all the, what do you call that? Stinking thinking, yeah. And return to truth, create that space where the truth will be revealed yet again. By the way, you should never say, this is also good for couples, you should never say, pull yourself together now, if you're witnessing somebody else be spread out. I didn't need to tell you that, right? Nobody needs to be told that. We all have probably learned that the hard way already. That was quite good, and I love that you saved the Amazing Grace as a surprise. That was so fun, because I did not hear you do that. And you sing it beautifully, Miss Kathy. Covey also said integrity is fundamentally the value that we place upon ourselves. And integrity is our ability to make and keep commitments to yourself. Do you do that? Do you say, because it's really easy to say, at my house it would be, I'm going to make sure I take my walk today. And then it's like, oh, I slept a little too late. I see people looking at each other. I slept a little late. Now it's too hot, and so you don't. So it begins with those little things, like keeping your word with yourself. Keep commitments to yourselves. Walk your talk, you might say. But to put it even more simply, Janis Joplin said it even better. It was lovely doing research. I had to watch 3 or 4 Janis Joplin clips, and boy, I'm a fan. Are you surprised? No. Probably not, no. Janis Joplin said, don't compromise yourself. You're all you got, baby. Yeah. You're all you got. Don't compromise yourself. I like that. All right, let's talk about I Once Was Blind. I Once Was Blind. I think when I looked at that talk title, I thought immediately everybody's going to assume we're going to be talking about it. The song Amazing Grace is the first thing that comes to our minds. I mean, you can't really even hear the title of the talk without hearing the song move through your mind, even for us who cannot sing. Which, by the way, Bruce did a pretty good job. It was really a treat. I think it was really fun. But I wanted to take it back to what may be the origin. It's hard to know because the Bible, was thrown together a long time ago. But in Scripture, in the Gospel book of John, there's a story about the day that Jesus is working his ministry, and he encounters this man who has been blind from birth. And he performs a miracle, and he gives this man sight. And it's interesting the way he did it. I read it in 4 different. I like to cross-reference, but I like to look the Bibles up. I like to really use the Bibles because I'm an old Bible student. So I really have a fun time. And I have one Bible that has it's a cross-reference with 4 different Bibles. You look it up once, and you can see 4 different definitions. So I looked up a total of 4 different translations, and I want you to know, it says Jesus encounters the blind man, and he decides he's going to heal him, and he spits in the dirt. And I looked it up 4 times. They all said spit. I went, oh, surely they don't all say. I should have looked up ass. That would have been fun, too. Yeah, right? So he spit, and in all 4 accounts it said spit. Well, actually, in one of them it said spat. But, it was the same thing. So nobody has tried to clean that up. He spit in the dirt. Some say he spit in his hand and put dirt in his hand, and he made a clay. He made some mud. And then he took that mud and he put it on the blind man's eyes. And he anointed those eyes so that the man would be healed. And then he said to the blind man, he said, there, now go to the pool of Siloam and cleanse and take the mud off. Wash your eyes, cleanse your eyes, and you will have sight. And so somebody helped the blind man get to the pool of Siloam, and he got in the water and he cleansed his eyes. And can you imagine what that would be like to suddenly, you've never seen, you've never had sight, and he receives the gift of sight. Now, I looked up, why would he spit in the dirt? So you have to have some good references, and I do. I have a good library at home. And it was not uncommon in that time period and before that, and even to this day, where people would mix saliva and dirt together to make a clay and use it as a poultice. Poultice, thank you. Whew. I knew I had to spell it, I just couldn't say it. And use it as a poultice, like grandma would. Grandma would make some smelly concoction and spread it out on some kind of fabric and wrap it around your boo-boo or put it over your sliver. And so what we know about the qualities of mud with all the minerals in the dirt, the magnesium and all the other things that I can't even pronounce, is that there's a healing quality in that. And some suggest that mixing that with saliva may have been even a more potent, made it a more potent, never mind. I love alliteration, but I don't think I can say that. But you know what I mean. Would have made it even stronger. And then they use those mud treatments to relieve soreness, to draw out infection, to stimulate healing. And it's incredible because they've had healing treatments as long as people have been able to ponder how to get well again. So that would have been common in that day. So now Jesus gives this blind man sight, and the religious leaders, the Jewish leaders, go a little crazy. They're watching Jesus. They got their eye on him because the Messiah might be coming here, and there are a lot of false messiahs. So they're cautious. Because the job of the religious leaders, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, their job was to uphold the Jewish law. And let's face it, there were a lot of Jewish laws. And Jesus came to say, enough, let's make it easier, just love each other. Treat each other like you want to be treated. Love God with all your might. And it really is great wisdom to make all those laws a little less cumbersome. So these Jewish leaders now are like, they go up to the blind man and they go, what happened? You can see? And you were blind, right? And what did that man do to you? And they just keep questioning this poor man who's probably going, wow, oh, look at that. And oh my gosh, look at that. And, so he's probably a little bit annoyed that they're asking him all these questions. But they don't leave him alone. Now, I did read in my research, I thought this was interesting, that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all the leaders would be cautious because they also believed that there would be a coming Messiah, and maybe, who knows? So if you listen, after I thought about that, and I see the way the scholars have thought this stuff through, I could see that there are patterns that give us more information, and it helps me understand why they kept going back to him, the blind man, and questioning. So not only did they go up to the blind man 3 times and ask him the same questions, tell us the story again, how did it happen? And you were blind from birth, right? And they go through the whole thing, but they went to his parents, and they said, okay, is that your son? Yes, that's our son. And was he blind at birth? Yes, our son was blind from birth. What did that man do to him that made him see again? So they're just trying to figure out, does he have powers from God? I think they're really just trying to figure that out. What did the man do to him? And then the parents go, and can you imagine, even the parents are elated and probably confused. And the parents go, We don't know. You have to go directly to him. He'll tell you. So they go back a final time, and they corner the blind man who now can see, and they say to him, please answer these questions for us. And this is the point. This is where the line gets well known. Exasperated, the man replies, I don't know how he did it. What I know is I was blind and now I see. Now I've been thinking about this. I think it's possible that response, the I don't know, might be a bigger part of the story that nobody ever talks about. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All I know is that I had that and now I don't. Now I can see a deeper spiritual truth has been revealed, and I can live my life differently. And I think we can apply that to any kind of a healing. Because, and the reason I think that I don't know is important is because if you don't have doubt or confusion, then it's not faith. You are not demonstrating faith unless you don't know. So what if that's a glorious place to be, because it's a surrender. It's how we open up for the greater wisdom to be revealed. And remember that there is that wisdom within you that has never been violated in any way. There is all of that God-given, the God-given gifts, the grace of God that is just everywhere, permeates everything, waiting for us to have the vision to recognize it and to see it. So I would say that pretty much every spiritual tradition, every sacred text uses this idea of sight versus blindness. We use the idea of sight as a metaphor for faith. And so here's how you can apply it in your own life right now, this week. When you have an aha moment of clarity, even if it's over like, oh, that's why this drawer doesn't close as well, and you're beginning to see the pattern. You're beginning to see that's because there's something blocking the ease of opening and closing the drawer, right? Or whatever it is. Oh, that person was rude to me. I'll bet that person is having a bad day today. And it's not me. I haven't done anything wrong. Right? You can apply it to everything. So it becomes a broader application of understanding light. I would say that all faiths have this metaphor of sight and faith, sight relating to faith, and blindness relating to things we just haven't figured out yet. And Christianity promotes the idea that it's Jesus who is the healer and the revealer of light, but I want to make that even bigger, because we are exclusive in this teaching, in this faith. We honor all paths to God. We don't believe we have the only true faith. I love that. It just makes my job so much easier. And I have belonged to faiths where that wasn't the case. So I love the freedom, and I love the respect we show to each other when we honor all faiths. So I would take that idea that Jesus as the revealer, the giver and the revealer of light, I would say it's not the man, it's the Christ consciousness. Let us not lose sight of the fact that Jesus came and embraced a consciousness that had not been present on the planet before. And he was a teacher because people could watch him and see that he could do things that seem supernatural. The miracle is like, it has to be from God. It's supernatural. But the miracle is simply a new way of viewing life. It is a new perspective. Even the root of the word miracle, if you dissect it, has to do, it actually translates to wonder. My favorite translation is, it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to not be blind. It's wonderful to begin to sense that even here we can make a difference across the ocean. As a community, we can join together and we can do something positive. It's wonderful to listen to a demonstration of someone who's been through and his family has been through something hard, and to hear from his mouth that this teaching is about affirmations. This teaching is about positive prayer, affirmative prayer. This teaching is about knowing there are things we can do to lift our own attitude, and thereby Spirit can carry us through the darkest of nights, and we will see again. I once was blind, but now I see. You know, it's almost as if we're sort of born, we're spiritual beings, and then we come into, we're going to be human beings for a little while. And that we're sort of born, our memory of spiritual things has been erased, and we're sort of blind to the spiritual truth of our being, and that all of our living, every experience we ever move through is about remembering, coming back, waking up, and taking back that higher vision, looking for those real moments, and using then, when we can in those holy moments, using that divine vision to look out at the world then. Not when you're scared, not when something has rattled the world and there's a big thing we're worried about. It is when we have those moments and we're open and we've had an aha and your heart is tender. Those are the moments to know that there is a power and a presence that's keeping everything in order, and sometimes things break apart in order to be rearranged, and we trust the process. We can trust that this universe demonstrates that perfect order to us again and again. Dr. Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook, was talking about this passage of the blind man seeing again, and he said this: "We say that light comes with an expansion of consciousness, and that all people have sensed the truth, that truth is light. Now, if a spiritual treatment, if a prayer could be seen, think about that. You can hear a prayer. I'll pray in a minute. You can hear it. You can, if I pray well, you might feel it. Well, even if I don't pray well, you could still feel the essence of the truth in the words, but you can't see it. You can see the effects of it if you keep your eyes open while I pray. Sometimes I'm like really active. I'm told, I don't know. But you can't see the prayer, and I love that he said that. If it could be seen, it would be seen as a pathway of light. We don't create it. It's not a psychological explosion. Sometimes it feels like it. But it's not a psychological explosion. You can't make it appear. It's not a trick of concentration. That's the other thing. We use our will. I'm going to will it to be. No, it's not like that at all. The prayer works at the level, it meets us exactly at the level of our own belief, and that's what demonstrates that we can then see. He says the kingdom of heaven comes not by observation, it comes in those moments of our deepest realization, our deepest open embodiment of these beautiful truths. So when we sense, you've heard this so much, but when we sense the presence of light, then darkness disappears. Because we are in the presence of divine illumination, when we can sense the presence of light, when we can sense the presence of love, of goodness, of peace, then all that other fear stuff disappears. And in that way, it is as if the light, the sudden look of the light, you've been in the dark, this sudden look at the light blinds us for a minute. And in that moment of blindness, Holmes says it blinds us to evil. And that's why we can pray. We recognize that stream of light, and for a while we are not looking at the world as if it's broken. We're not looking at our lives or our relationships as if they are broken, but rather we can see the holiness, even in the most clunky of situations. There's holiness. Never forget it. So I'm going to close this morning with a final quote from Dr. Holmes, and he says to us, this is on page 319 in the Science of Mind textbook. I encourage you to read around this section. It's lovely. He says, it's not easy to turn from fear and poverty. It's not easy to turn away from pain in our human experience, but whoever can, those who can do this, whoever will train themselves to do so, it will be like the man who was healed from his blindness. He had little comprehension of how it was done. He could only say, whereas I was blind, now I see. Take a deep cleansing breath, and we will gently move into the words of prayer. Well, a lot has happened already this day. We have celebrated. We have shared tears. We have rejoiced in our ability to assist each other. And now we are praying together. Whether you are here in this sanctuary or sitting in the comfort of your own home, we know that right where you are as God, there can be no place where God would be missing or limited. For that presence and that power and that love that we know to be the holiness of Spirit itself is right here, right now. So we just allow ourselves to feel something stirring within us. And I know that that movement is the quickening, the movement and activity of Spirit itself within us. It is the love of God that desires to express in our lives this day. So we become holy vessels. We take this time to allow ourselves to be open at the top as if we were a vessel, so that the grace of God can begin to stream into us. We are filled with that grace by the goodness of the Holy Spirit. We are quickened from the inside out, so that we are aware in this very moment of how miraculous life truly is. That these bodies are created in such a way that there's a wisdom for healing. That our tender hearts are brilliantly supported with the ways in which we can heal relationships. That even our finances are blessed by the givingness of God, that we are supplied always in this inexhaustible way, so that we always find that things that meet, they come together in a perfect order, and that there is always this beautiful way we just move through any uncomfortable situations. We are fueled, we are fed, we are sourced by the greatest source of all, and that is the Holy Spirit. So I feel that shift and that change within my own being. And I know that there is shifting and changing as we are all open in this way, that the truth can dawn upon us of itself. And we are healed from what ails us, and we acknowledge that there has been mud on our eyes, and we merely need to find our way to the pool of Siloam, the pool of peace, where the cleansing waters are always there to heal and to renew our spirits and to uplift us in the inspiration that is pure God. So I know that all of the beautiful sense of connection we have felt this morning in this sanctuary and online and from our devices, I know that that union, that unified way we have connected is an expression of divine wholeness. It is the way we are integrated within ourselves and we integrate with each other on a holy plane of life. And I pronounce that it is good, that we are open to the healings, and that we generously share our love with the world in every direction. I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this inspiration, for this incentive, for this reassurance that all is well. There is work to be done, and we are willing servants. And with a very grateful heart, I simply release the words of this prayer into that divine law that always responds, yes, my child, yes. I let it be, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right. Thank you, Bradfords. Now is the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. Just want to remind everybody that we don't pass around an offering plate. We have giving envelopes, donation envelopes, pledging envelopes in the back of the room on the way to Pappy Hall when we have fellowship and great food, and then also in the bookstore. And I also want to remind you that if you'd like prayer, we have a call to prayer right after service. You can come right up here and pray with the practitioner. We're available for you for prayer right after service. So I just want to let you know that that's available as well. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. So it is.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? to be alive.
Yes, it does. All right, so if you can repeat after me, our closing affirmation. My personal experiences reminds me of the love in, through, and all around me. And so it is.